Hi, it's Dr. Lori, and I'm back with my list of lies or myths. And these are the, out and out mistruths, or of course, the myths that have been long standing. Everybody believes them for years and years in the antiques world. I've been doing this for a long, long time. Have you heard any lies or myths? Put them in the comments. I want to hear them so we can get the story straight. So, our first lie and myth is brown furniture is not valuable. I've been interviewed about brown furniture. Nationally known newspaper reporter interviews me about brown furniture. Everyone says brown furniture is not valuable. Come on. One of the problems with brown furniture is it's made of such good quality materials. It's been around so long that a lot of people don't want to deal with it because it's so heavy. Heavy, really, that's the problem. That is a lot of the problem with brown furniture. Restorers don't want to deal with it. Some auction houses don't want to deal with it because moving it is so difficult because it's solid hardwood mahogany made in the early 20th century or solid walnut, and they go, oh, it's just brown furniture. Nobody wants it. So people start to believe, oh, it's low quality. It's not low quality. It's usually a very good quality, usually has its original hardware. It may not be the style you want, and the other people who like it are DIYers who have the talent to make it look and bring it into the 21st century, to make it look different. Now, again, you may not like the way it looks, but in terms of quality, when somebody says brown furniture is not valuable, it is valuable. And a lot of people will have it for decades and decades. Now, I had a mom who used to say, these Coach purses last so long that you can never get a new purse. I'd like to have a new purse, but they're such good quality and they last so long that you never get a new purse. It's kind of the same thing with brown furniture. But I was doing an appraisal, I'll never forget it, and one of the big auction houses said, oh no, we don't want any of the brown furniture. It's worth money, but we don't want to move it. So, I've been doing this a long time. I know all of these things. I've seen all of these things happen over years and years. Brown furniture does have value because of its quality. Lie or myth, what do you think? Number 2, lunch boxes without a thermos have no value. Now, there's a very, very long-standing myth about lunch boxes, and lunch boxes have a great collecting community. A lot of people collect lunch boxes. Most of the value in lunch boxes is in fact about the image on the lunchbox, Star Wars lunchboxes, about who made the lunchbox like Aladdin and others, but also this idea about that online antiquing craze of lunchboxes. It's been around for a long, long time. And in fact, the value is based on those factors, not so much on, of course, the thermos. The thermos is important, sure. If you have the thermos, keep the pieces together, that's great. But if you don't have the thermos, that doesn't mean that the lunchbox without a thermos, it should be thrown away or is not valuable at all. So that's the myth there. Number 3 on our list, of course, of lies and myths about the antiquing world, this is a chocolate pot. This is probably, I think if I had to do a top 3, this would be one of the top 3 myths that I have seen over my career. And this particular thing, people will argue with me tooth and nail. I'll be at an event and they'll say, no, that's a chocolate pot, that's a cocoa pot. Let me explain this to you. First of all, they look like they're cocoa pots. They look like they're chocolate pots. They're oftentimes a misnomer. They're mistakenly called chocolate pots when in fact they are utilized for other drinks, not necessarily cocoa or chocolate. Chocolate was the preferred drink in the 18th century in France at breakfast, and basically hot cocoa or chocolate would be used. And a chocolate pot has a pole, whether it's a metal pole or a metal handle or a wooden pole or a wooden handle, coming out of the side of the body of the pot. It does not have a handle that has a curve that connects from the top of the pot to the bottom of the pot, like most coffee and of course teapots. But in fact, a chocolate pot has that pole because the idea was you would hold the pole and then you would move the actual pot, so all of the chocolate sediment that basically had accumulated at the bottom of the pot actually gets back in with the water, so it gets stirred up again. And with that pole, that was how it was done. It was also done on an angle rather than the spout on one side and then the handle on the other side. So this is a chocolate pot. That would be a myth because chocolate pots actually have that pole that comes out of the body, not a handle like we're accustomed to seeing. In the early 1900s, they in fact would call all of these pots incorrectly chocolate pots. So, lie or myth, what do you think? Individually knotted strands of pearls are always real pearls. Well, that's a myth too, and here's why. A lot of people will actually individually knot faux pearls or imitation pearls, or of course what are called costume or junk jewelry pearls, and there are lots of reasons for it. Sometimes they don't realize that they don't have, of course, real pearls. Sometimes they are actually individually knotting the pearls to make them look like they are the real thing. So it's a marketing ploy to utilize that process of individually knotting pearls, strands of pearls or pearl necklaces. You're going to see that. And then also what we typically will see is some people say, I want them individually knotted. I don't, because they belong to a family member. They were grandma's pearls. I want them individually knotted because you won't lose the pearls. The reason for individually knotting pearls in the first place has to do with how they will fall on the neckline, if they'll fall nice and straight, and also it's because you want to make sure that if the necklace does break, if the string or the strand, usually it's silk thread, actually breaks, that you don't lose every single pearl, because they're not stopping a pearl with a knot. When they're individually knotted, if you lose one, if the thread breaks or the strand breaks, then you only one goes off the strand where it actually was cut or where it actually broke. But otherwise, you could lose all of them all at once. So individually knotting strands of pearls are always real pearls. That's a myth too. This next myth actually has to do with storage and display. Curio cabinets protect your collectibles. Is that a myth? Is that a lie? What do you think? Well, first of all, curio cabinets are fine. They're great for display. However, curio cabinets retain heat, and the heat will do more damage to your collectibles than the dust that you're trying to keep out of your curio cabinet will ever hope to. Yes, you'll keep the dust out, but you'll keep the heat in. It's trapped inside of those panel doors with the glass panels, and in fact, what happens is the curio cabinet heats up, and all that heat is trapped, and that can damage your art, antiques, and collectibles inside. So curio cabinets actually, for when it says protecting your collectibles as a myth, that's a myth too. Curio cabinets are fine for display, but when it comes to protecting your collectibles, they can retain a lot of heat. I oftentimes give an advice about this, telling you to open up your curio cabinet for about 8 hours once a month, so you can let some of the heat escape. Now, of course, you're trying to keep the dust out, but that's not going to be as big a problem as the heat will be. In my museum experience, I never forget it, and this is where I learned this to be a big myth. There was a display case, like a curio cabinet, with, of course, glass panel doors, and there was Chinese export porcelain inside of that particular display case. They had an HVAC system over a weekend. On Friday night, everything was fine. Monday morning, we came back into the museum, and the entire case had built up with so much heat that all of the pieces were damaged. They all basically took on the heat, cracked, chipped, damaged. I've also had a similar situation, and of course that was all from, of course, the closed doors, those glass doors retaining heat. Had a similar situation when I was doing an appraisal in a private home. A woman had her Waterford crystal in her curio cabinet display case with the glass panel doors. There were lights on the top of the display case. She said she kept them on all the time, and guess what? When I went in to appraise the Waterford crystal, all cracks in the crystal stemware glasses. So again, that's a myth too. Another myth comes from the world of costume jewelry, and I know a lot of you care about costume jewelry just as I do. Screwback earrings are worth more than clip-on earrings. Well, this has to do with, of course, preference. Now, screwback earrings, where you have to screw them through the back, and then the lobe of the ear is just, the screwback pushes up against the lobe of the ear. And clip-on earrings have a hinge, and they just clip to the lobe of the ear. However, the myth is screwback earrings are worth more than clip-on earrings. It's all about taste, and it's mostly about, when it comes to value of clip-ons versus screwbacks, it's mostly about, with costume jewelry, the designer the style of the earring, are they cluster earrings or not, and of course the materials that are used, faux pearls, Austrian crystals, aurora borealis, set stones, those kinds of things. So that's what we're looking at here. It depends on quality and designer. It doesn't depend on whether or not screwback earrings are worth more than, of course, clip-ons. Me, I hate clip-ons because they fall off, they hurt your ears, you take them off and your earlobes are all red. But in fact, screwbacks are not worth more than clip-on earrings. It depends on the style of the earring and of course the materials that are used in the costume jewelry. This next myth or lie is Lladro figurines have no value. You know, a lot of people are anti-figurine. You know, a lot of people are collecting them, but there's a lot of myths out there. With this is one too. Lladro figurines have no value is a myth, because in fact, if you are shopping anywhere abroad, in Europe, in parts of the Caribbean, you will see very, very high prices and people paying very high prices for, of course, Lladro figurines. I actually had someone on Ask Dr. Lori Live who bought one at a thrift store and was able to resell it for a high value too. So don't believe that those high quality, Spanish made, hand painted, elongated Mannerist style, that's that elongated figural form, Lladro figurines are not valuable. They have value too. They're worth something. Why? They're of high quality and of beautiful design. I'm Dr. Lori. Those are lies and myths. Keep it right here. I'll see you next time.